My 12-year-old daughter had already escaped the burning house when my parents forced her back through the smoke. I reached the front yard seconds after the door slammed, and they swore Maisie had run inside on her own to find her father, a man with an intellectual disability. But Owen, her biological father, was standing beside me. When he realized she was trapped, he turned toward the flames. Hours later, the evening news showed what had really happened at that doorway. The footage did not teach me whom to believe. I had already chosen my daughter. It showed the world how far my parents' lesson, that Maisie was responsible for her father, had finally taken them. Before I take you back to the Sunday when I should have recognized the first warning, how are you doing today? Stay with me to hear what happened, and subscribe to the channel so you do not miss the rest of Maisie's story. 10 weeks before the fire, I believed our Sunday dinners were proof that I had kept the most important promise of my life. Owen arrived at 4:20 on the same bus he had taken for nearly 5 years. Maisie reached the door before I did and threw her arms around him. "Dad, you made it," she said. Owen smiled over her head. "The bus made it too. I helped by sitting in it." Maisie laughed. His humor was plain enough to miss if you were not listening, but it made her laugh every time. He opened his hand and showed her a little black wheel with a silver pin through the center. "Found it under the potting bench. Marcus said it was trash. I said scientists decide what is trash." Maisie held it up to the light. "This could work on the heavier car." Her school STEM showcase was less than 2 weeks away. She was testing how different surfaces and ramp angles changed the stopping distance of a model car. Half our dining table had disappeared beneath rulers, felt, sandpaper, graph paper, and masking tape. Owen knelt beside the ramp while Maisie fitted the wheel onto the model. His fingers were rough from handling soil and garden trays at the nursery, but he held the tiny pin with patient concentration. When it clicked into place, Maisie set the car at the top. 3, 2, 1, Owen said. The car shot down the ramp, crossed the felt, and rolled under the sideboard. Owen stared at the empty track. "Very scientific." "It went farther than yesterday," Maisie said as she crawled after it. "It means your mother's floor is crooked," my father said from the doorway. Glenn had entered behind my mother without knocking. He still had a key then. Patricia carried a covered casserole and gave me the careful smile she used whenever she wanted credit for making an effort. "We brought dinner," she said. "I thought Claire could use one evening without doing everything." Owen stood too quickly and bumped the table. The ruler shifted, but nothing fell. "Sorry," he said. Maisie moved the measuring cup farther from the edge. "You're okay. Sit on this side, Dad. There's more room." She did not look at the ramp again. Her eyes went to his jacket pocket, then to the clock. "Do you still have your return ticket?" Owen patted his pockets. "Blue pocket. Can I check?" He turned the pocket outward. The folded ticket was inside. "All good," she said, and her shoulders lowered. I noticed her relief, but I misunderstood it. I thought she was proud of knowing his routine. After years when almost nothing in her life stayed in place, I believed predictability made her feel safe. Maisie had been 5 when her mother died, and 7 when I adopted her. Owen loved her fiercely, but he understood that love and full-time care were not the same thing. With his own advisor present, he agreed to the adoption because he wanted Maisie to have one home, one school, and an adult who could manage the decisions he could not handle alone. I promised that becoming her mother would not require erasing him as her father. Sunday dinners were how I kept that promise. At least, that was what I believed. We moved to the table. Maisie chose the chair between Owen and the end, directly across from my parents. From there, she could see every face. Before I sat, she moved Owen's water farther from his elbow. "He knocks it over there," she explained. Owen nodded. "She knows." Conversation began easily. Owen told Maisie about a customer who tried to return a dead plant after leaving it in a dark garage for 6 weeks. He reached the funniest part, laughed, and started again from the beginning. Maisie touched his wrist twice. Owen stopped. I already said that. Just the first part, she replied. You can tell the ending. Glenn leaned back. Good thing he brought his traffic controller. My fork paused. Dad, do not call her that. He raised his hands. It was a joke. She keeps him going in the right direction, does she not? Maisie looked at Owen's plate. Owen looked at her, waiting to see whether he had done something wrong. I should have stopped the dinner. I should have asked why a 12-year-old was monitoring a grown man's voice, ticket, water glass, and stories while the rest of us ate. Instead, I softened the moment. Maisie understands Owen better than any of us, I said. That does not make her his traffic controller. Patricia smiled at her. Your grandfather chose the wrong words. What he means is that you are unusually mature. Most children would not have your patience. That familiar word settled over the table. Mature. I had heard it throughout my own childhood, usually after I swallowed something I wanted to say or repaired a mood I had not broken. The recognition passed too quickly for me to catch. I only saw Maisie sit straighter. Owen reached for his water and brushed the rim with his sleeve. Maisie caught the glass. Sorry, Owen said. No, I moved it wrong, she replied before anyone complained. Glenn nodded. In this family, the person who can handle a job handles it. She is a child, I said. And a capable one, Patricia replied. There is nothing wrong with teaching a child to be useful. Maisie changed the subject. She asked Owen whether he remembered the rules for the STEM showcase. He brightened. I wear the blue shirt. I sit where you show me. I do not talk when judges talk. You can talk, I said. It is your daughter's presentation. Maisie shook her head. Only if they ask him something. Owen pulled a folded sheet from his jacket. Maisie made me a list so I can do really good. He sounded proud. I unfolded it beneath the table light. Keep your ticket in the blue pocket. Use your quiet voice. Do not touch the display. If you feel upset, tell me first. Do not leave without me. Wait until I say it is okay to talk. At the bottom, beneath 2 underlined words, she had written, Do not make people look. Her own presentation cards were still blank on the counter. She had not practiced her opening sentence or decided how to explain her results, but she had prepared 6 rules for her father. Maisie, I asked, why do you have to tell Dad when he can leave? She took the page and folded it along the same creases. Because I know what to do. Marcus can help with his bus. I will be there too. Her eyes moved toward Patricia before returning to me. The glance lasted less than a second. I saw it. I just did not understand it. After my parents left and Owen's bus carried him home, I found Maisie arranging her blank presentation cards beside the list she had made for him. I sat across from her and pushed the first card closer. Let us practice your opening. Just you and me. Maisie shook her head and kept writing on Owen's list. I cannot yet, she said. I still have to teach Dad what to do if people look at him. For the next 12 days, I kept telling myself that Maisie's list was only a coping tool. She liked plans. Owen liked plans. There was nothing wrong with either of them wanting the STEM showcase to go smoothly. That explanation became easier to believe after I helped Maisie finish her display board. We mounted 3 strips across the center, smooth plastic, felt, and coarse sandpaper, then placed photographs of her model car beside the measurements she had collected. Her conclusion was written in careful block letters. A steeper ramp increased speed, but a rougher surface shortened the stopping distance. She could explain every number without looking at her notes. The moment we discussed Owen attending, however, she stopped sounding like a student and started sounding like an event coordinator. What time will Dad get there? 5:30, I said. Which door will he use? The main entrance. What if his bus is late? Then he will call me. What if he calls me first? I set down the tape dispenser. Then you can tell him to call me. Maisie looked at her display instead of answering. The showcase was held on a Thursday evening in the school gym. Her science club met after classes, and I had already signed the school's self-dismissal form, allowing her to leave the club on her own at the end of scheduled meetings. At the time, it seemed like a small step toward independence. The city bus stop was less than 2 blocks away, and Maisie had a phone. I did not yet understand how closely she had connected independence with the duty to find her father. When we arrived, folding tables filled the gym in straight rows. Paper planets hung from the basketball hoops, and the air smelled of poster paint, floor polish, and the pizza volunteers were selling near the entrance. Students hurried past carrying volcanoes, solar ovens, and towers made from drinking straws. Maisie barely looked at any of them. She checked the nearest exit, then the side doors beside the bleachers. She found the restrooms and asked where Owen should go if the gym became too loud. Before setting down her project, she checked her phone twice to make sure she still had his bus schedule. "You know your own presentation better than anyone here," I told her. "That is the part you should be thinking about." "I am thinking about it. You just check the doors again, in case Dad needs one." I wanted to tell her that Owen's needs were not her assignment. Instead, I adjusted the corner of her display board and said, "I will be here. Your grandparents will be here. There will be plenty of adults." She gave me a look I could not read. Owen arrived 7 minutes early in the blue shirt Maisie had chosen for him. He had combed his hair flat on one side, although the wind had lifted the other. When he saw her table, his entire face brightened. "You made it look like a real scientist did it," he said. "A real scientist did," Maisie replied. He nodded seriously. "That explains it." She smiled, but the smile vanished when he reached toward the model car. "Do not touch that one yet. The axle is loose." Owen pulled his hand back immediately. I remembered no touching. "You can touch it when I show you." He put both hands behind his back. I saw the movement. I saw how quickly he obeyed. Still, I told myself Maisie was nervous because she cared about the project. Owen leaned closer to her display. "If I need to go outside, will you be mad?" "No," Maisie said. "Just tell me first. You will be talking. I can stop." "You do not have to stop," I said. "Owen, tell me if you need a break. Maisie will stay with her project." Owen looked at Maisie before nodding. Patricia and Glenn arrived a few minutes later. My mother brought flowers wrapped in clear plastic, something she knew Maisie would have nowhere to put. Glenn carried a paper cup of coffee and studied Owen as if he were already waiting for him to fail. Patricia kissed Maisie's cheek and lowered her voice. "Everything depends on how well you pay attention tonight." I was standing close enough to hear the words, but a volunteer asked me to move a box from the aisle at the same moment. I caught only the end of the sentence. "What depends on it?" I asked. Patricia smiled. "Her presentation." "What else?" Maisie looked down at her shoes. Before I could question her again, a teacher announced that the first group of judges would begin at the far end of the gym. Maisie was fourth in her row. She straightened her note cards and whispered the first line under her breath. Glenn picked up the printed program from the table. "Owen, when does her group start?" he asked. Owen glanced at the page. The schedule was printed in small columns with room numbers, group codes, and abbreviations beside each time. "He does not need to read that," I said. "Maisie starts in about 10 minutes. Glenn held the program toward him. I asked Owen. Owen accepted it. His eyes moved across the page. 6:15. "That is the robotics demonstration," Glenn said. Owen traced another line with his finger. Then 6:30. "That is refreshments." Several parents nearby turned at the sharpness in Glenn's voice. Owen tried again. His finger slipped to the next column. Glenn gave a short laugh. "This is why adults need to know their limits." "Dad," I said. "What?" "I did not print the program." Owen lowered the page. Color climbed from his collar into his cheeks. He glanced at Maisie, then at the people who had turned to look. "I can find it," Maisie said quickly. "Dad, give it to me." I was reading. "I know," Let me see. Owen held on to the paper. Glenn took a sip of coffee. She cannot do her own work and manage you at the same time. The muscles around Owen's mouth tightened. He looked back at the page, but his eyes were no longer moving from line to line. He was staring through it. Dad, Maisie said, touching his wrist twice. Owen folded the program, unfolded it, then folded it again. I need outside, he said. I will go with you, Maisie replied. A teacher stepped toward her table. Maisie Holloway? The judges are ready for you. Maisie looked at the 3 adults standing near her, then at Owen as he moved toward the gym doors. I will be right back, she said. The teacher gestured toward the judges. They need to continue down the row. Maisie was already following Owen. I caught her gently by the arm before she reached the aisle. Stay with your project. I will help him. She pulled against my hand. He needs me. He needs an adult, and I am here. He will not know where to go. The side doors lead to the courtyard. I will take him there. She shook her head harder. No, he has to tell me first. Maisie, the judges are waiting. I do not care. I had never heard her say those words about something she had worked so hard to finish. Owen reached the gym doors and looked back. The noise around us seemed to press closer. Shoes squeaked against the floor. A microphone crackled near the stage. Someone dropped a metal water bottle behind the bleachers. Maisie twisted her arm, trying to free herself. Let me go. I am not stopping you from helping him. I am telling you that I will do it. You do not know what to say. Then tell me. It does not work if I am not there. Her voice rose enough for the teacher and the nearest students to hear. Patricia stepped closer. Claire, do not make a scene. Let her calm him down. That sentence stopped me. Not help him. Not check on him. Calm him down. I loosened my grip but did not release Maisie. Why does she have to do that? Patricia's expression changed. This is not the place. Maisie pulled again. Panic sharpened her voice. If I do not fix it, Dad will lose the Sundays. The gym noise continued around us, but the space beside her table seemed to go silent. What did you say? I asked. Tears filled her eyes. Grandma said if I do not keep Dad good, people will see he cannot come anymore. Patricia reached for her. That is not what I said. Maisie backed into the edge of the table. The model car rolled down the ramp without anyone releasing it, crossed the smooth plastic, and fell to the floor. If I do not fix Dad, he will lose the Sundays, she cried. You said Mom is not hard enough to tell him. Owen had returned to the doorway. He stood with one hand against the frame, close enough to have heard the last sentence. His face went still. The teacher quietly guided the judges to the next table. Maisie's note cards remained beside the ramp, untouched. Her name was removed from the presentation order, and the students on either side of us began speaking too loudly, pretending not to listen. I wanted to take Maisie somewhere private. I wanted to demand answers from my mother. I wanted to go to Owen before the shame on his face turned into something harder to reach. For the first time, I could not hold every person in the room together. I packed Maisie's display without asking her to present again. On the drive home, Owen sat beside her in the back seat. He kept his hands folded between his knees and left several inches of space between them. After 3 silent blocks, he asked, Who said I only get to be your dad if you keep me good? Maisie lifted her eyes to mine in the rearview mirror. Grandma said Mom was not hard enough to tell you. Maisie's answer stayed in the car long after the engine stopped. Owen sat beside her in the back seat, his hands still folded between his knees. He had not touched her since leaving the school. Maisie kept watching him from the corner of her eye, as if she were waiting for him to become angry, cry, or disappear. I parked outside my house but did not open the doors. Mom is not ending Sundays, I said. Nothing Maisie said tonight changes whether you are her father. Owen looked at me through the mirror. She thinks it does. I know. Maisie wiped her face with her sleeve. Grandma said people were already worried about Dad. She said if he made too many problems, they would stop letting him come. Who are they? She hesitated. Adults. Which adults? People who decide things. The answer told me how young she had been when the fear began. Patricia had not needed to name a judge, a caseworker, or an agency. Maisie already knew that adults could move her from one house to another. All my mother had to do was suggest those adults were still watching. I took Owen home first. He lived in a supported apartment building about 15 minutes from us. Normally, Maisie walked him to the entrance and waited until he texted that he was inside. That night, Owen opened the car door alone. Maisie reached for her seatbelt. I should go with him. No, I said gently. Owen can go inside. He forgets to text. I can text Claire, Owen said. Maisie stared at him. But you always text me. I can text both. You might forget the second one. Owen's face tightened. He did not argue. He got out, closed the door, and stood beneath the parking lot light. Good night, Maisie. She leaned toward the window. Blue pocket for your key. Owen touched the pocket without looking down. I know. It was the first time I heard irritation in his voice when she tried to help him. Maisie heard it too. She sank back against the seat as if he had pushed her away. At home, I made tea that no one drank. Maisie sat at the kitchen table with her hands wrapped around the mug. Her abandoned presentation cards were still inside the project box by the door. I sat across from her instead of beside her. I wanted her to see my face without feeling trapped. I am going to ask some questions, I said. You are not in trouble, and Dad is not in trouble. You can stop whenever you need to. Her first questions were about whether the adults around her were angry. Are you mad at Dad? No. Are you mad at me? No. Are you going to make me tell Grandma again? No. You do not have to explain this while the people who frightened you are standing over you. She studied me, searching for the condition hidden inside my answers. What did Grandma tell you to do when Dad visited? Maisie looked down at her mug. Just help. What did helping mean? Make sure his ticket is in the blue pocket. Make sure he does not lose his phone. Tell him when he is too loud. If he tells the same story again, touch his wrist. If he gets upset, take him outside before Grandpa gets mad. She spoke faster as the list continued. I have to check that he does not touch things that are not his. I have to tell him when people are joking so he does not get offended. I have to apologize if he makes someone uncomfortable. If he wants to leave, I have to go with him. If he argues with Grandpa, I'm supposed to stop him. I have to tell Grandma if he is not okay. Who taught you the wrist signal? Grandma. Who told you to apologize for him? Grandpa said someone had to. My throat tightened, but I kept my voice steady. What happens if you do not do those things? Maisie's fingers pressed into the mug. Grandma said people would see Dad cannot behave. And then? They would stop Sundays. Did she say I would stop them? She said you do not understand how hard Dad is, because you always try to make everybody happy. She said you would understand when he ruined something important. The showcase had been something important. Maisie had expected Owen to ruin it, and she had prepared to sacrifice her work before he had even arrived. How long have they been saying this? I do not know. Since this year? She shook her head. Since last year? Another small shake. Before I turned 10, she whispered. For more than 2 years, my daughter had believed every Sunday depended on her ability to manage a grown man. During those same years, I had praised her patience. I had thanked her for knowing what Owen needed. I had watched her carry responsibility and called it love, because that explanation made our family look successful. Owen called before I could ask anything else. I am inside, he said. I know. I saw the building door close. Maisie did not answer my text. She is with me. There was a pause. Did she ever want to help me? The question hurt more than anger would have. She loves helping you sometimes, I said. But she also thought she had no choice. I thought she liked knowing things. She does. The problem is that she believed your visits depended on it. Owen breathed into the phone. I could hear him rubbing his thumb against the case, a repetitive sound he made when trying to stay calm. I made her check the bus. You did not know why she was doing it. I liked when she checked. That is not the same as knowing she was afraid. She always knew what to do. His voice cracked on the last word. Across the table, Maisie watched me. I realized she was trying to read my answers from my face. Maybe I should stop coming on Sundays, Owen said. Then Maisie would not lose Grandma and Grandpa because of me. Maisie leaned toward the phone. No, Dad. I can do better. There is nothing for you to do better, I told her. Then I spoke to Owen. You are not going to solve this by disappearing. Tonight, let Marcus know you are upset and stay in your apartment. I can stay. I know you can. Both of them still believed love could be withdrawn because one of them had failed to perform correctly. Sundays are going to change, I said. They are not ending. After Maisie went to bed, I sat alone at the kitchen table and remembered a Thanksgiving when I was 11. Glenn had been angry because Patricia invited his brother without asking. My mother took me into the laundry room and told me I was the only person my father would listen to. I spent the meal watching how much he drank, changing the subject whenever his voice rose, and removing his car keys before dessert. The next morning, Patricia told me I had been remarkably mature. There had been other moments. Christmas mornings when I opened my gifts slowly because Glenn was in a mood. Family trips when I sat between my parents so they would not argue. Dinners when Patricia whispered that I needed to be helpful because she could not handle one more problem. They had not invented a new role for Maisie. They had handed her mine. I called my parents the next morning and told them to come to my house without Maisie or Owen present. Patricia arrived first. Glenn followed with the expression of a man summoned to discuss someone else's mistake. My mother placed her purse on the counter and looked toward the hallway. Where's Maisie? At school. She should hear us clear this up. No, she has heard enough. I repeated what Maisie had told me. Patricia listened without interrupting, which made me hope for several seconds that she understood. Then she sighed. Claire, we were trying to preserve the relationship you insisted on keeping. You told a child she would lose her father if she did not control him. I told her actions have consequences. His actions or hers. Owen does not respond to most people when he becomes overwhelmed. He responds to Maisie, because you trained her to believe she had to make him respond. Glenn crossed his arms. We did what you refused to do. You keep pretending love makes him capable. This is not about whether Owen needs support. It is exactly about that, Patricia said. Someone has to notice when he is becoming a problem. Maisie is good at it. She is 12. She is unusually mature. The word struck differently now. It no longer sounded like praise. It sounded like a receipt for work stolen from a child. You said the same thing about me, I said. Patricia's expression hardened. This is not about your childhood. It is the same system. You decide one person is difficult, then make a child responsible for keeping everyone comfortable. Glenn stepped closer to the counter. In a family, the person who can do the job does it. No, the adults do the adult jobs. And when the adults cannot calm Owen, then another adult helps him. Not Maisie. Patricia shook her head. You are going to take away the one thing she is good at and call it protection. She is good at science. She is good at noticing details. She is funny. She is loyal. She is not Owen's handler. Neither of them answered. I held out my hand. I need the house key. Patricia stared at me. Do not be dramatic. You will not be alone with Maisie. You will not call or message her without going through me. You will not attend Sundays until I decide it is safe. Glenn gave a humorless laugh. So we tell the truth, and you punish us. You frightened my daughter into believing her father's place in her life depended on her performance. We taught her responsibility, Patricia said. You taught her fear. My hand remained open. Patricia removed the key from her ring and placed it on the counter. The sound was small, but Maisie's Tuesday pickups, my late shifts, emergency childcare, and every favor my mother had used to keep herself necessary seemed to fall with it. You understand I will not be rearranging my week when the library needs you late, she said. I understand. And when Owen creates another scene, I will handle it. Glenn moved toward the door. You chose him over your own family. I chose the child you made responsible for him. They left without saying goodbye. That afternoon, I called my supervisor and gave up 2 evening shifts until I could arrange other childcare. The loss would hurt. So would the knowledge that Maisie might blame herself each time she saw me rushing from work or calculating a schedule. When she came home, she noticed the key on the counter. Grandma gave it back? Yes. Is she mad? Yes. Maisie set down her backpack. Fear moved across her face before she managed to hide it. Is Dad still coming Sunday? The question was so quiet I almost missed it. I walked around the counter and knelt in front of her. Yes, Dad is still coming. She searched my face. Even after all this? Especially after all this. Her shoulders did not relax. That was when I understood that removing my parents from the house had not removed their lesson from my daughter. Removing my parents from the house did not remove their lesson from my daughter. It only made me desperate to prove that lesson wrong. The following Sunday, I planned every minute before Owen arrived. I checked his bus route twice, printed the return schedule in larger type, set his ticket beside the door, and moved anything fragile away from the dining table. I chose a simple meal, turned off the television, and told Maisie she did not need to prepare a list for him. She stood in the kitchen, watching me label 2 containers of leftovers. What if Dad forgets which one is his? I will tell him. What if he puts the ticket in the wrong pocket? I will help him. What if he gets upset? I will handle it. Her mouth tightened each time I answered. I thought I was reassuring her. I did not understand that I was also confirming the world required someone to manage Owen. I had only replaced her name with mine. When Owen arrived, Maisie ran to the door, then stopped herself before checking his pockets. The effort was visible in the way she curled her fingers against her palms. Owen noticed too. You can say hello, he told her. Hi, Dad. Hey. They stood there awkwardly until I took his coat. At dinner, Owen asked Maisie about the science club. She began explaining how she planned to rebuild the model car with a heavier frame. Halfway through her answer, he reached for the wrong glass. Maisie moved instinctively. I caught the glass first. I have it. She sat back. A few minutes later, Owen told the same nursery story he had told us the previous week. Maisie lifted 2 fingers toward his wrist, then dropped her hand beneath the table. I interrupted him. You told us that one already. Owen stopped speaking. His expression changed, not because he had forgotten the story, but because of the way I had corrected him. I can tell a story twice. You can. I was only letting you know. Maisie lets me know different. Maisie stared at her plate. I spent the rest of the meal answering questions before he could ask them, and solving problems before they became problems. When he looked toward the clock, I told him what time his bus left. When he searched for his napkin, I handed him another. When he hesitated over whether he wanted more food, I decided he had eaten enough. By dessert, Owen had gone quiet. After Maisie carried her plate to the sink, he leaned toward me. You do not let her be my helper anymore. That is right. But now you do all of it. Iamanadu it. You talk like I am not one. His words caught me off guard. I am trying to protect Maisie. From me? From feeling responsible for you. Owen pushed his chair back. You do not let Maisie be the grown-up anymore. But now you make me the child. He took his coat from the hook before I could answer. His bus was not due for another 20 minutes, but he chose to wait at the stop rather than stay in my house. Maisie watched him leave through the front window. Is Dad mad at me? No. He is upset with me. Because I did not help? Because I helped too much. She frowned as if that answer made no sense. It did not make much sense to me either. During the next 2 weeks, I tried to correct my mistake by controlling less, but fear kept pulling me back. I canceled a crowded community event Owen had planned to attend with us because Marcus was not scheduled to accompany him. I answered when a cashier asked Owen whether he wanted a receipt. Each time, I told myself I was preventing Maisie from stepping in. Each time, she watched me do exactly what she had been taught to do. She stopped correcting Owen in front of me, but the behavior did not disappear. It became quieter. I found screenshots of his bus routes on her phone. She kept an alarm for the time he usually reached home. When I asked her to stop, she deleted the alarm but began checking the wall clock instead. I mistook obedience for improvement. The day that proved me wrong began with a road closure. Owen was supposed to meet us at the library after Maisie's science club. The city had changed his regular bus route because crews were repairing a broken water line. I saw the service alert during my lunch break and texted him the replacement stop. He replied with one word. Okay. I called 10 minutes later to explain it, but he did not answer. I assumed he was working and sent another message. At 4:15, Maisie's club ended. Because I had signed the school's self-dismissal form, she was allowed to leave on her own. The library was only a short walk from the school, and she usually came directly to my office. What I did not know was that Maisie had seen the same service alert in the transit app she still checked. When Owen did not arrive and did not answer her call, she compared the detour map with the stop photographs already stored on her phone. At 4:30, she had not arrived. I checked her location and saw that she was moving away from the library. I called. She did not answer. My first thought was not that she had disobeyed me. It was that something had happened to her. I left my assistant at the children's desk and hurried outside. Maisie's location moved toward the temporary bus stop near a grocery store 2 blocks beyond the school. By the time I reached the intersection, I could see her backpack. She was standing beside Owen beneath the shelter. He held his phone in one hand and the printed bus notice in the other. Maisie was pointing toward the route map. Relief hit first. Anger followed so quickly that I nearly used it to cover the fear. Maisie. She turned. Her face changed when she saw me. I found him. You left school without telling me. The bus changed. I know. I sent Owen the new stop. How did you know where to look? I saw the alert. Dad did not answer, and I knew he would try the stop he already knew first. He did not understand which side of the street. Owen looked at me. There were 2 signs. You could have called me. My phone was in my bag. Why? Because I was looking at the paper. Maisie stepped between us without seeming to realize she had done it. He was waiting on the wrong side, but I fixed it. The word struck me harder than it should have. Fixed. I looked at the time. The science club had been choosing students that afternoon for the district presentation. Maisie had spent days talking about earning another chance to show her project. What about the selection meeting? She looked away. You left before it ended? Dad was late. You gave up the district presentation to find him? He needed me. Owen lowered the paper. I did not ask her. She knew where I would be, he added. But the pride that might once have been in his voice was gone. I wanted to tell Maisie she was grounded. I wanted to take her phone and lecture her about leaving without permission. Those consequences would have been simple. They would also have let me pretend the problem was only disobedience. I crouched in front of her. Why did you believe no one else would help him? Her eyes filled, but her voice remained firm. You said I am not allowed to take care of Dad. That is not what I said. You said adults have to do it. Yes, but you were at work. Marcus was not there. Dad did not answer. If I did not go, who was taking care of him? You could have called me. And while I waited, what if he got on the wrong bus? He might have made a mistake. What if he could not get home? Then an adult would help him. Which adult? I opened my mouth and had no name ready. Maisie's voice dropped. Mom, you keep telling me not to take care of Dad. But what happens if nobody else does? The traffic moved behind us. Owen stood inside the shelter, staring at the route notice as though every line on it accused him of costing his daughter something. He folded the paper carefully. She missed science because of me. Not because of you, I said. She came because I did not know where to stand. She came because she is afraid no one else will come. Owen looked at Maisie. Did you think I would be gone? She did not answer. Her silence was enough. I drove Owen home, instead of making him navigate another bus. Maisie sat beside him in the back seat, but neither of them spoke. For once, she did not remind him which pocket held his key. He did not ask her. That evening, I emailed the science teacher and learned the district positions had already been filled. Maisie could continue working with the club, but she had lost the chance she wanted. She said it did not matter. That was how I knew it did. After she went to bed, I sat at the kitchen table with her unfinished model in front of me. I had removed my parents. I had canceled activities. I had taken over Owen's routines. I had told Maisie she was free. Then I had left a space where no trusted adult stood, and she had run straight back into it. My phone rang shortly before 10. Owen's name appeared on the screen. For several seconds after I answered, he said nothing. I do not want Maisie to be my helper anymore, he finally said. I closed my eyes. But I do not know how to need somebody else and still be her dad. Owen's question stayed between us on the phone. I do not know how to need somebody else and still be her dad. I looked at Maisie's unfinished model car on the kitchen table. One wheel leaned at an angle because she had removed it to test a heavier axle. She had spent weeks studying what made an object slow down, but none of us had understood how much weight she was carrying. I do not have an answer ready, I said. Owen was quiet. That is not a bad thing, I added. I have been giving everyone answers before they can tell me what they need. You tell me what to do a lot. I know. Maisie does too. I know that now. He rubbed his thumb against his phone case. I could hear the soft scraping through the speaker. What kind of help would make things easier for you? I asked. All help makes people think I cannot do things. That is not what I asked. He stopped rubbing the case. I asked what would make things easier. Owen took so long to answer that I thought the call had disconnected. Bus changes, he said, when they move the signs. What else? Places with too many people. Papers with too many words. When everyone asks me something at the same time. Do you want someone to speak for you? No. His answer came immediately. Do you want someone to tell you how you feel? No. Do you want someone to decide whether you can see Maisie? No. Then those are boundaries. Owen breathed out. I can have boundaries if I need help? You should have them especially when you need help. The next evening, Owen came to the house without my parents present. Maisie had been waiting by the window, but she did not run outside when his bus arrived. She stayed on the couch with her science notebook open across her knees. Owen entered, removed his coat, and checked his blue pocket without being reminded. My key is here, he announced. Maisie looked up. Okay. He sat in the chair across from her. Neither of them knew how to begin. I brought 3 glasses of water to the coffee table and deliberately left Owen's near his elbow. He noticed. You put it in the dangerous place. I did. He moved it himself. Maisie's eyes followed the glass, but her hands remained on her notebook. Owen looked at her. I need to say something. Am I in trouble? No. I need you to listen, and you can ask me anything after. She waited. Owen pressed his palms against his knees. I liked when you helped me. Maisie's shoulders lowered slightly. You never made me feel stupid, he continued. When other grown-ups help, they sometimes talk like I am not there. You do not do that. I know how to explain things. You do. Then I can still help. Owen glanced at me before answering. Sometimes. If you want to. Not because you think I disappear if you do not. Maisie closed her notebook. I do not think you disappear. You left science to find me. You were at the wrong bus stop. I was on the wrong side of one street. You could have gotten on the wrong bus. I might have. And then what? Then I would ask somebody. What if they were mean? I would ask somebody else. What if nobody helped? Owen's expression tightened. The questions were not really about the bus. They were about every adult who had ever decided whether he belonged in her life. I sat beside Maisie. Your father is allowed to make a mistake, I said. A mistake does not erase him. What if it is a big one? Then adults help with the consequences. She looked at Owen. Grandma said adults will get tired. Owen leaned forward. You do not keep Sundays for me. Maisie's eyes filled. I can help you be good. I am not good because you help me. You get upset. So do you. I am a kid. Yes. The word landed softly, but Maisie looked as if she had never heard it used as permission before. Owen continued. You are my kid. You are not the reason I am your dad. You do not hold that job. Maisie wiped her eyes with the heel of her hand. Then who helps you? That is what I am going to choose. Marcus Dale had worked with Owen's supported living program for more than a year. I had met him twice in passing, but Owen had always limited his involvement in family visits. Marcus helped with financial paperwork, appointments, and problems in the apartment building. He did not usually accompany Owen to events, because Owen had insisted he did not need anyone watching him around Maisie. 2 days later, the four of us met in a quiet room at the library after closing. I chose the location because Owen knew the building. Maisie could sit near me, and no one had to feel trapped in an office. Marcus arrived carrying a plain notebook. He did not open it until Owen gave permission. I heard there was a problem with a bus change, he said. There were 2 signs, Owen replied. That sounds confusing. It was. What would have helped? 1 picture showing which side. Marcus wrote that down. Maisie leaned forward. I have pictures of all his usual stops. Marcus looked at Owen instead of answering her. Do you want to use Maisie's pictures? Owen considered it. Maybe copies. Not her phone. Marcus nodded. We can make your own set. Maisie sat back. I saw disappointment cross her face. Her knowledge had been useful for so long that separating it from responsibility felt like taking something away. Marcus asked Owen where he wanted support. Owen listed the things we had discussed. Route changes, crowded events, long forms, emergencies with too many instructions. What do you not want me to do? Marcus asked. Do not answer if somebody asks how I feel. All right. Do not tell Claire I cannot visit Maisie. That is not my decision. Do not tell Maisie what she should feel about me. Marcus set down his pen. That is not my decision either. Owen looked surprised by how easily the boundaries were accepted. I had expected Marcus to present a plan. Instead, he asked questions until Owen began building one himself. We started with transportation. Marcus would receive the same service alerts Owen received. If a route changed, he would send 1 image showing the temporary stop and call only if Owen requested it. Owen would try the route first when the change was minor. If he felt lost, he would contact Marcus or another staff member, not Maisie. Then we discussed crowded events. Owen did not want Marcus beside him every minute. They agreed on a signal Owen could use if he needed a break. Marcus would wait nearby without controlling where Owen sat or when he spoke. Maisie listened without interrupting until Marcus mentioned emergency plans. I should be on that list, she said. You are part of the family plan, I told her. I know Dad's signs. Owen frowned. What signs? When you are getting upset, when you need outside, when you stop reading words. Marcus looked at her gently. Knowing someone well is not the same as being responsible for their emergency plan. But what if I notice first? You can tell an adult, I said. What if the adult does not understand? Then the adult has to learn. She crossed her arms. Marcus did not argue with her. He turned back to Owen. What makes instructions easier to remember? Colors. We created a simple safety card. Claire calls emergency services. Owen follows the nearest marked exit. Everyone meets at the same outdoor point. No one returns for bags, phones, or projects. I placed a blue marker near the front exit of our house and a yellow one beside the door leading to the yard. Marcus helped Owen reduce each instruction to a few words. Eyes and color. Go with an adult. Meet outside. Do not go back. Maisie wanted to add a final line, saying she would check whether Owen had reached the meeting point. Owen stopped her. I check myself. What if you forget? Marcus can check. Her pencil froze above the card. You want him to do it? I choose him to do that. Maisie set down the pencil. For the rest of the meeting, she spoke only when someone asked her a direct question. On the drive home, I expected anger. Instead, she stared out the window. Marcus does not know Dad like I do, she said. No. He does not know Dad hates whistles. No. He does not know Dad rubs his phone when he is worried. That is true. Then how can he help better than me? He does not have to know Owen better than you. He only has to be an adult. Owen trusts with adult responsibilities. Maisie pressed her forehead against the glass. So, I am not special anymore. I pulled into our driveway, but left the engine running. You are his daughter. No one can replace that. He picked Marcus. He picked Marcus for bus changes and emergencies. He picks you when he wants to tell a terrible joke or bring home a wheel he found under a bench. She tried not to smile. He did not find that wheel. Someone probably threw it away. Your father believes scientists decide what is trash. That earned the smallest laugh. The new system felt unnatural at first. Owen forgot to contact Marcus after one schedule change. I nearly stepped in, then waited while he found the correct number himself. Maisie asked whether he had eaten 3 times during one visit. Owen answered the first 2 times and ignored the third. The following Sunday, Marcus came with Owen because the bus company had changed its weekend route again. At the kitchen table, Marcus showed him 2 pictures of possible stops. Owen studied them. Maisie rose halfway from her chair. This one is closer to the pharmacy, she said. Owen looked at her, then back at Marcus. I do not understand why there are 2 choices. Marcus began explaining the entire detour. Owen lifted one hand. Fewer steps. Marcus stopped. Owen pointed at the pictures. Tell me where I get on and where I get off. Marcus gave him the 2 locations. Owen repeated them once, folded the pictures, and put them in his blue pocket. Across the table, Maisie slowly sat down. Nothing collapsed. The harder part was what came after. Freedom did not arrive with the relief I expected. The next morning, I found her standing in the kitchen with Owen's bus schedule open on her phone. She had already checked whether the weekend detour was still active. Marcus has the route information, I said. I know. Then why are you checking it? I was just looking. She locked the screen and placed the phone face down. 10 minutes later, while packing her lunch, she asked whether Owen had remembered to eat breakfast. I have not spoken to him this morning. Should I text him? No. What if he forgot? Owen sometimes forgets breakfast. That is not an emergency. Her hand stopped over the open lunch bag. He gets headaches when he does not eat. Then he will notice the headache, or Marcus will help him plan meals if Owen asks. Maisie pushed an apple into the bag harder than necessary. You keep saying I do not have to do things, but you never say what I am supposed to do instead. The question stayed with me after she left for school. For years, the adults around Maisie had praised her for being useful. She knew how to check pockets, read bus routes, watch facial expressions, and stop a problem before anyone else admitted it existed. Removing those duties had not simply made her free. It had taken away the role that made her feel necessary. That evening, she sat at the dining table with her science notebook open, but spent more time watching the clock than writing. What happens at 7:15? I asked. Dad usually gets home from the nursery. Marcus is meeting him today. I know. Then why are you watching the clock? She shrugged. I sat across from her. What would you be doing right now if you did not have to think about Owen? I do not know. What do you want to do? I said I do not know. Her voice sharpened, and I let the silence remain, instead of filling it with suggestions. Finally, she touched the edge of the damaged model car. I would have been working on the district presentation. The selection meeting she had abandoned was over, but her science teacher had told me another student might withdraw. Even without a place, Maisie could rebuild the project and keep attending the club. Then let us start there, I said. She did not immediately agree. She picked up the model and spun one crooked wheel. The frame is too light. We can change it. The measurements from the showcase are not good enough. Then we can take new ones. What if they do not choose me? Then the project will still belong to you. She looked doubtful, but she took a pencil and began listing materials. That Saturday, Owen invited us to the nursery. Marcus would be there because they were practicing a new bus connection after Owen's shift. Maisie spent the drive asking whether Owen knew we were coming and whether Marcus had confirmed the return route. I answered the first question and refused to answer the others. "You are doing it again," she said. "Doing what?" "Keeping information from me. I am leaving Owen's information with Owen. It affects me. His safety matters to you. That does not mean every detail belongs to you." She turned toward the window and did not speak until we reached the nursery. Owen was working beneath a long greenhouse roof, moving small trays of seedlings from a metal cart to a waist-high bench. The air smelled of wet soil and rosemary. Drops of condensation clung to the clear panels overhead. When he saw Maisie, he raised one gloved hand. "You came on Tomato Day. Is Tomato Day good?" "It is better than Dead Fern Day." Marcus stood near the end of the aisle, speaking with another staff member. He acknowledged us but did not follow when Owen led Maisie toward the workbench. Owen showed her 2 trays of seedlings. Several labels had fallen loose during watering. "I need someone with better eyes," he said. Maisie examined the stems and leaves. "You want me to fix the labels?" "I want you to help me tell which kind is which. That is plant help, not dad help." She looked at him to see whether he was joking. "What is the difference?" "I asked because you like plants and details. I did not ask you to make sure I get home." Maisie studied the seedlings. One variety had darker, more sharply cut leaves. "These are probably the cherry tomatoes." Owen checked the picture guide clipped above the bench. "You are right." For the next 20 minutes, they worked together. Maisie compared leaves, while Owen replaced labels. She did not check his pockets or ask about his bus. Once, she looked toward Marcus when a delivery cart blocked the aisle, but she stayed beside the plants. Owen made a mistake and put one label in the wrong tray. Maisie corrected him without apologizing for him or looking around to see who had noticed. "That one goes here," she said. Owen moved it. "Good catch." The exchange was so ordinary that it nearly broke my heart. When Owen's shift ended, Marcus joined him near the employee entrance. He showed Owen a picture of the temporary bus stop. Maisie leaned forward to see. Owen folded the picture before she could read it. "I have it." "Which stop is it?" she asked. "The one Marcus and I picked." "What if it changes?" "Then I call him." Maisie looked hurt, but she nodded. On the drive home, she held a small tomato leaf Owen had given her. "Dad still needed me today. He wanted you." "That is not the same." "No, it is better." She rolled the stem between her fingers without answering. That night, we rebuilt the model car. Maisie replaced the light frame with a heavier wooden base and tested 3 axle positions. We measured stopping distance across felt, plastic, and sandpaper until masking tape covered the floor. For nearly 2 hours, neither of us mentioned Owen. I did not realize how rare that had become until Maisie looked at the clock and said, "We forgot to check whether Dad got home." Her face tightened immediately. I waited. She reached toward her phone, then stopped. "Marcus would call if something happened, right?" "Yes." "And Dad can call." "Yes." She drew her hand back. "Then we need 3 more trials on the sandpaper." We were recording the final measurement when I noticed an envelope among the day's mail. My name was written across the front in Patricia's careful handwriting. I considered putting it away, but Maisie had already seen the return address. "Is that from Grandma?" "Yes." "Are you going to read it?" "I have not decided." "Can I?" "No. It is addressed to me." She looked disappointed but did not argue. I read it after she went to bed. Patricia wrote that she had gone too far. She said she should not have made Maisie feel responsible for whether Owen visited. She admitted that keeping secrets from me had been wrong. Then, halfway down the page, the apology changed shape. She wrote that she had acted from fear. Owen needed more help than I was willing to acknowledge, and Maisie had always understood him better than anyone. Patricia promised not to assign her duties again, but she hoped I would eventually recognize that families sometimes relied on the person best able to prevent a crisis. At the end, she asked for one supervised dinner. I read the letter twice. It contained enough regret to sound sincere, and enough justification to prove that nothing fundamental had changed. The next morning, Maisie asked about it before breakfast. "Grandma wants to see us? She wants one dinner. Are you going to say no?" "I have not decided. She misses me." "How do you know?" "Because I miss her." There was no accusation in her voice. That made the answer harder. Patricia had frightened and manipulated her, but she had also attended school concerts, baked birthday cakes, and cared for Maisie when I worked late. Children did not stop loving people the moment those people became unsafe. "Missing her does not mean you have to see her," I said. "I know. Seeing her does not mean everything goes back to normal. I know that too." Owen came for his Sunday visit that afternoon. After Maisie showed him the rebuilt car, I gave him a summary of Patricia's letter. I did not ask him to decide for me. He listened while turning one of the spare wheels between his fingers. "Maisie wants to see them? She misses them. Do you?" The question surprised me. "Sometimes." Owen nodded. "I do not want to be why you lose your mom and dad." "You are not." "They say I am. They say many things that are not true." He placed the wheel on the table. "If you do dinner, I choose if I come." "Yes." "And I can leave." "Yes." "Marcus does not have to come." "No." Owen thought for a moment. "I want to come. I want Maisie to see I can ask for help without her." I did not agree to the dinner that day. First, I called Patricia. I read every rule aloud. She would not be alone with Maisie. She would not ask Maisie to explain Owen, calm him, watch him, or speak for him. Owen could leave any room or end the visit. I could end dinner the moment a boundary was crossed. Patricia did not interrupt. "I understand," she said. "I want a chance to do better." Then I called Glenn separately. He sighed after the second rule. "Do we really need a contract to eat chicken? We are not negotiating." I never asked Maisie to be his nurse. You told her the person who could do the job had to do it. That is common sense. "Do you agree to the rules?" A long silence followed. "Yes," he said at last. "I agree. I chose my house because Owen functioned better in a familiar space. Maisie wanted to show them her rebuilt project, and I could end the visit without waiting for anyone else to leave a restaurant or public building. No one would stay overnight. No one would arrive early. Dinner would last 2 hours. When I told Owen the plan, he listened carefully. "They said yes to every rule?" he asked. "Yes." "Do they understand?" I looked at the list I had written beside Patricia's letter. "They understand what will happen if they do not follow them." But that was not what Owen had asked. On the afternoon my parents returned, I checked the house as if preparation could turn trust into something measurable. The blue marker beside the front entrance was still visible from the living room. The yellow marker near the kitchen door pointed toward the backyard. I tested both smoke alarms, cleared the narrow hallway beside the foyer, and made sure nothing blocked the path between the dining room and either exit. Maisie watched me from the floor, where she was arranging the 3 surfaces for her rebuilt STEM project. "Are you expecting a fire?" she asked. "No, we made a safety plan, so I am making sure it still works. Marcus said we are not supposed to go back for projects." "That is right." She looked at the model car in her hands. "Even this one?" "Especially that one." She placed it at the top of the ramp and released it. The car crossed the smooth plastic and stopped just beyond a strip of masking tape. 38 inches, she said. Owen arrived 20 minutes before my parents. He checked his key, removed his coat, and placed his bus card in the blue pocket without looking at Maisie. She noticed. Neither of them said anything about it. "Do you still want to do this?" I asked him quietly. Owen glanced toward the window. I said yes. You are allowed to change your mind. I know. That answer mattered more than the decision itself. He joined Maisie on the floor and studied the rebuilt model. This car looks expensive now. It has a wooden base. Scientists got funding. I found the wood in the garage. Government funding? Maisie laughed and handed him the car. Do not release it until I say. Owen held it at the top of the ramp. I remember. When the doorbell rang, Maisie's smile disappeared. Patricia stood outside, carrying a covered dish and a grocery bag. Glenn was behind her with a bottle of sparkling cider tucked beneath one arm. They had arrived at the exact time I gave them, neither early enough to catch me unprepared, nor late enough to make a point. My mother waited for permission before stepping inside. Thank you for letting us come, she said. Glenn looked past me toward the living room. Are we taking attendance too? Patricia touched his arm. We agreed to the rules. He gave a short nod. We are here, are we not? It was not an apology, but it was restraint. Maisie remained beside her project. Patricia approached slowly and stopped several feet away. May I see what you have been working on? Maisie looked at me before answering. You can come closer. Patricia knelt beside the ramp without touching anything. Maisie explained how the rougher surface shortened the model car's stopping distance. My mother listened carefully and asked why the heavier frame changed the results. For several minutes, the conversation belonged entirely to Maisie. Glenn stood near Owen, watching the model roll down the ramp. That one pulls left, he said. The axle is not straight, Owen replied. You can see that? Owen looked at him. It pulls left. Glenn almost smiled. The moment was ordinary enough to make me feel foolish for being afraid of it. In the kitchen, Patricia uncovered the breaded chicken cutlets Maisie had once called her best Sunday dinner. My mother always insisted the final batch had to be fried just before serving so the coating stayed crisp. She had brought a shallow pan and enough oil to cover the bottom. I can cook them, I said. You are already hosting. I would rather stay in the kitchen. Patricia met my eyes and understood what I was really saying. I will not leave the stove. The words should have reassured me. Instead, they reminded me that our agreement depended on everyone continuing to choose it. Dinner began quietly. Maisie sat beside her project rather than between Owen and my parents. I had deliberately placed Owen at the end of the table, where he could leave without passing anyone. Patricia served the cutlets directly from the first batch and returned the remaining pieces to the kitchen. The pan stayed over low heat while she finished preparing them. Owen asked when we would eat dessert. After dinner, I said. He waited a few seconds. What time? Patricia looked toward Maisie. Her eyes moved away before Maisie could respond. About 7:30, she told Owen. He nodded. It was a small correction, but I saw Maisie relax. A few minutes later, Owen dropped his napkin. Glenn looked at Maisie by reflex. She kept eating. The silence lasted barely a second before Glenn bent down and picked it up himself. There, he said. Crisis handled. Thank you, Owen replied. Glenn leaned back. I was making a point. I know. Owen's calm answer left Glenn with nowhere to take the joke. Patricia returned to the kitchen to turn the next batch. When she came back, Maisie was showing Owen a chart from her project. He leaned close to read the labels. What is this word? Coefficient, Maisie said. Owen tried it once and missed a syllable. Glenn corrected him. Owen repeated it. Glenn corrected him again, more slowly. He understands the chart without saying every word perfectly, I said. I am helping, Glenn replied. No, Owen said. You are making me say it for you. The room changed. Glenn placed his fork down. I am trying to teach you. I did not ask. Maisie's hand moved toward Owen's wrist, then stopped above the table. Owen saw it. I can say when I need help, he told her. She lowered her hand. Patricia entered carrying another plate. Her gaze moved from Glenn's expression to Owen's clenched fingers, then settled on Maisie. You know what helps your father when he gets like this. Maisie stared at her plate. I pushed back my chair. That is exactly what you agreed not to say. I did not assign her anything. I only said she understands him. She does not have to act because you are uncomfortable. Patricia set down the plate harder than necessary. This is not about my comfort. Look at him. Owen's breathing had changed. He pressed one thumb against the edge of the table and repeated the first words of a sentence without finishing it. Maisie began to rise. Stay seated, I said. Patricia turned toward her. Your father needs you. No, I said. Owen needs space. He responds to her. He can respond to himself. Glenn gave a dry laugh. That has gone well so far. Owen stood. I need outside. I will go with you, I said. Maisie pushed her chair back. Owen looked directly at her. You stay with your car. She froze. He repeated it more calmly. You stay. I led Owen through the kitchen. The pan was still on the rear burner, the oil shimmering beneath the light. Several uncooked cutlets remained on a plate beside it. I reached past Patricia and turned the burner off. Leave the last batch until you can stay with it. The oil is fine, Claire. Then it can wait. I opened the kitchen door and stepped outside with Owen. From the dining table, Maisie watched us cross the threshold. The evening air was cold enough to clear the smell of oil and food from my lungs. Owen moved to the far end of the patio and pressed both hands against the wooden railing. I asked him to stop. He said, You did. He did not. I know. Through the glass, I saw Patricia return to the range. Her body blocked the controls, and I believed she was moving the pan off the heat. Only later did I learn that she had turned the burner back on, lowered another cutlet into the oil, and then followed Glenn into the dining room. Maisie was still at the dining table. My mother stood beside her, speaking with one hand pressed to the chair back. Glenn remained near the doorway between the dining room and living room. I could not hear every word, but I heard Patricia say, You cannot use these new rules to abandon your father. I reached for the door. Owen caught my sleeve. Do not leave me alone. The request stopped me. You are not alone. Inside, Maisie shook her head. Patricia leaned closer instead of returning to the kitchen. The smoke alarm sounded. For 1 second, none of us moved. Then orange light flashed across the kitchen window. I pulled open the door, but a wave of dark smoke pushed toward us. Flames had climbed above the stove and caught along the underside of the cabinets. Heat drove me back onto the patio. Maisie! I screamed. Through the smoke, I saw movement toward the front of the house. The kitchen route was already blocked. Owen pointed toward the side yard. Front. Varann. Behind us. Glass cracked inside the kitchen. Smoke poured from the open doorway and rolled beneath the roofline. I shouted Maisie's name again as Owen followed me down the narrow path beside the house. By the time we reached the corner, the front door was no longer visible from where I stood. I ran toward it anyway. I rounded the corner with Owen a few steps behind me and saw my parents standing on the lawn. The heavy front door was almost closed, but not latched. Smoke escaped through the narrow gap around its frame, darkening the porch light and drifting across the roof of the house. Maisie was not with them. Where is she? Glenn turned toward me. His face was red from heat and coughing, but his answer came without hesitation. She ran back inside, looking for Owen. Owen reached my side. For 1 second, no one spoke. The man Maisie had supposedly run inside to find was standing beside me, breathing hard from the sprint around the house. Patricia stared at him. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. Maisie is where? Owen asked. Glenn looked from Owen to the door. She thought you were still inside. She saw me go outside, Owen said. Patricia pressed one hand to her chest. Everything happened too fast. She panicked. I stepped toward the porch. Why did you not stop her? We tried, Glenn said. You tried how? The smoke came through the door. I pulled it in so we could breathe. When I tried to open it again, the heat drove me back. His answer was too smooth. He was describing fire, but he was watching my face. Behind him, Patricia coughed into her sleeve. She kept saying she had to find her father, she said. We told her not to go, but she would not listen. Owen stared at the front door. Maisie does not run into fire. She was afraid for you, Patricia said. She knew I was outside. She was confused. The smoke alarm inside continued to shriek. Beneath it, I heard glass breaking and the deep crack of something heavy falling in the kitchen. Sirens sounded in the distance. I moved toward the porch again, but the smoke thickened as wind pushed it across the entrance. Heat pressed against my face before I reached the first step. Owen grabbed my arm. She thinks she has to find me. She knows you are here. She knows until she gets scared. His voice was different. The panic had not disappeared, but it had narrowed into certainty. She will look for me instead of looking for outside. The firefighters are coming. She will hide. I heard the sirens growing louder, but they were still blocks away. Every second between them felt large enough to lose a child inside. Owen took one step toward the door. I caught his sleeve. No. He pulled once, but I held on. You cannot go inside. She knows my voice. The fire department is almost here. She thinks I am her job. The words broke through everything else. He was not trying to prove he could rescue her. He was trying to reach the part of her that my parents had trained to remain in danger until he was safe. Owen, the smoke could kill you. He looked directly at me. I know where she goes when noise gets too big. The small bathroom near the foyer. Maisie had hidden there during thunderstorms when she was younger. She had gone there once after Glenn slammed a cabinet door during an argument. It was not far from the entrance, but smoke could turn a few yards into an impossible distance. I tightened my grip on Owen's sleeve. He covered my hand with his. Claire, let go. I had spent weeks trying to decide what he could handle. In that moment, I still wanted to make the decision for him. Then I saw the blue marker beside the front entrance through the smoke. It was part of the plan Owen had helped build. He was not walking toward the door without understanding the danger. He was using the information he had chosen and practiced. I released him. Stay low, I said. He nodded once. Glenn moved toward us. Do not be stupid. Owen did not look at him. He pulled his shirt over his mouth, crouched near the doorway, and pushed the door open just far enough to enter. Smoke swallowed him. I screamed Maisie's name until my throat hurt. No answer came from inside. The first fire engine turned onto our street. Neighbors stood on lawns and sidewalks, some with phones raised. A woman across the road held her phone toward the house, while the man beside her spoke urgently into his own. Firefighters jumped from the engine before it fully stopped. One moved toward me while others pulled equipment from the truck. My daughter is inside, I said. Her father went in through the front. Kitchen fire. The back door is blocked. How old is your daughter? 12. Where would she be? Small bathroom off the front hallway. Maybe there. The firefighter repeated the information into his radio. Patricia stepped beside me. She ran back in after we got her out. I turned toward her. We were trying to stop her, Glenn added. The firefighter did not respond to either of them. He directed another crew toward the side of the house. I could no longer see Owen through the entrance. I could hear only the alarm, the rush of water from a hose, and the firefighters calling to one another. Later, Owen told me what happened after he crossed the doorway. He stayed low and followed the blue marker until smoke covered it. He called Maisie's name, but she did not answer. He moved toward the bathroom because he remembered the places she chose when sound became too much. The door was open. Maisie was on the floor near the wall, trying to crawl in the wrong direction. She had covered her mouth with both hands and could not hear him over the alarm. Owen touched her shoulder. She fought him at first. Then he used the words from the safety card. Eyes on color. Go with an adult. Maisie looked at him. Dad? I am here. She tried to ask how he had gotten inside, but he told her to move. They made it back toward the foyer, before the smoke thickened. Owen could no longer see the blue marker. He kept one hand on Maisie and called for help. That was when the firefighters found them. From the lawn, I saw two figures appear behind the men at the doorway. One firefighter carried Maisie beneath her arms, while another supported Owen. Both were coughing. Maisie's face was streaked with soot, and her body hung too loosely between the firefighter's hands. I tried to run toward her. A paramedic stopped me long enough to guide them onto the grass. "Maisie, I am here." Her eyes opened, but they did not focus on me. Owen dropped to his knees nearby. He coughed until he could not catch his breath. A firefighter fitted an oxygen mask over his face, while another paramedic placed one over Maisie's. I knelt between them, unable to touch either without getting in the way. Owen reached toward Maisie. "She thought she had to find me," he said through the mask. "You found her. She was looking the wrong way." Paramedics lifted Maisie onto a stretcher. When they began moving her toward the ambulance, Owen tried to stand. His legs gave way. A second stretcher was brought for him. Patricia followed behind me. Claire listened to me. She was already outside, and then she just turned around. We did everything we could. I looked at her. "You said she panicked." "She did. Dad said she ran inside looking for Owen." "That is what happened. How did you know what she was thinking?" Patricia's eyes moved toward Glenn. He stood near the driveway, coughing into his fist. When he noticed me watching, he came closer. "There was no time to ask questions," he said. "She ran. We tried to stop her. The fire was too strong." The same phrases appeared again. "Ran inside. Tried to stop her. Fire too strong." No one mentioned what Maisie had said before she went through the door. No one explained why the front door had been pulled nearly closed behind her. Near the curb, a reporter from the local station asked Glenn what had happened. Before she finished the question, he said, "She ran back in before we could stop her." Patricia repeated the same version while the camera operator turned toward the house. A paramedic called my name. I climbed into the ambulance beside Maisie while Owen was loaded into another. Before the doors closed, Patricia caught my hand. "Maisie ran in on her own," she said. "We tried to stop her, but the fire was too strong." I pulled my hand away. I still did not know what had happened at that doorway. But I knew my parents had prepared their story before anyone had asked them for one. The ambulance doors closed before I could see whether Owens had left the curb. A paramedic worked beside Maisie, adjusting the oxygen mask and watching the numbers on the monitor. I sat near her feet with both hands clenched in my lap because every place I wanted to touch seemed connected to a tube, a wire, or an injury I could not see. Her eyes opened once during the drive. "Dad? He is alive," I said. "He is in another ambulance." She tried to lift her head. "Stay still, sweetheart. He is getting help." Her eyes closed again, but the tension in her forehead remained. At the hospital, they took her through a set of double doors and stopped me at the desk long enough to confirm that I was her legal mother. I answered questions about allergies, medications, previous conditions, and the time we believed she had entered the house. That was the question I could not answer. I did not see her go in. The nurse looked up. My parents said she ran inside. I reached the front after the door was almost closed. The nurse recorded only what I knew. She did not ask me to choose between versions. A staff member led me to a small family waiting area outside the treatment rooms. My clothes smelled of smoke. Soot streaked one sleeve where I had touched the porch rail without noticing. Patricia and Glenn arrived several minutes later. My mother crossed the room toward me. "Have they told you anything?" "Not yet." "She was awake in the ambulance?" "Briefly." Patricia pressed her hand to her mouth. Glenn remained near the wall, his eyes moving between the doors and the television mounted above the empty reception desk. "It happened so quickly," Patricia said. "One second she was outside, and the next she ran back." "You said she was already outside?" "Yes." Glenn stepped closer. "She must have thought Owen was still inside. Owen was standing beside me when I reached you." "She did not know that," he said. Patricia nodded too quickly. She was panicking. Children do not think clearly in a fire. I looked at both of them. You told me she kept saying she had to find her father. That is what she was trying to do, Patricia said. How do you know? My mother's expression tightened. Because she ran back inside. The answer circled itself. A doctor came through the doors and asked for me. Maisie had significant smoke exposure, but she was breathing on her own with oxygen support. They were monitoring her airway and blood oxygen closely. She had bruising and scrapes, but no major burns had been found. Can I see her? For a few minutes. She may be confused and exhausted. Do not push her to explain anything. I will not. Patricia moved forward. I am her grandmother. The doctor looked at me. Only me, I said. My mother stopped. I followed the doctor into the room. Maisie looked smaller beneath the hospital blanket than she had on the stretcher. A clear mask covered her nose and mouth. Her hair smelled faintly of smoke, even after the nurses had wiped her face. I sat beside her and placed my hand where she could reach it. Her fingers moved first. She held on weakly. Mom, I am here. Dad? He is alive. Her eyes opened wider. Where? Another treatment room. I am going to find out more as soon as I can. She tried to pull the mask away. I stopped her gently. You need that. I have to see him. You do not have to do anything right now. Her eyes filled. I left him. You did not leave him. Owen was outside with me. Maisie stared at me as if she had not understood. He was outside? Yes. Her breathing quickened beneath the mask. The monitor changed rhythm, and I moved closer. You are safe. Dad is alive. She shook her head. They said he was inside. Who said that? Her eyes moved toward the door. I did not ask for names. I did not ask her to describe the porch or repeat every second. The doctor had warned me not to push, and she should never have needed a perfect account to earn my belief. Maisie swallowed. They said Dad was my job. The words were faint, but I heard them. I thought of the list in Owen's pocket. The bus stops. The abandoned presentation. Patricia standing beside the dining table, telling Maisie she could not use new rules to abandon her father. I asked one question. Did they make you go back inside? Maisie's fingers tightened around mine. She nodded. The movement was small, but the world shifted around it. The door opened behind me. Patricia had followed a nurse into the hallway and was standing just beyond the threshold. She is confused, my mother said. The smoke and medication can make people remember things incorrectly. I rose without letting go of Maisie's hand. You are not coming into this room. Claire, listen to yourself. She was terrified. She may believe anything right now. She believes what you spent years teaching her. Glenn appeared behind Patricia. Do not destroy this family over a few words from a child who can barely stay awake. I looked at him. She is not destroying anything. You did not see what happened. No, I did not. Then you cannot know. I know my daughter told me you sent her back. Patricia's voice dropped. We were trying to save Owen. Owen was outside. We did not know that. Maisie told you. My mother's face changed. It was not a confession. It was only a pause, but it told me she understood which part of the story had begun to fail. You will not speak to Maisie, I said. You will not ask her to repeat herself. You will not enter her room or tell anyone she is confused. Glenn shook his head. You are choosing her version before you have evidence. Yes, the word came easily. I had waited too many years to protect Maisie until every adult agreed she deserved it. Yes, I am choosing my daughter. A nurse asked Patricia and Glenn to return to the waiting area. I stayed until Maisie fell asleep again. When I stepped into the hallway, another nurse told me Owen was awake. Because he had given permission, she could share that he was being treated for smoke inhalation and exhaustion. His condition was stable, but they wanted to keep him for observation. Can I see him? Briefly. Owen was sitting upright with oxygen beneath his nose. His face and hands had been cleaned, but soot remained near his hairline. Maisie? Stable. She woke up. Did she ask for me? Yes. His eyes closed. She went back because of me. No. She thought I was inside. My parents put her back inside. Owen opened his eyes. I told him only what Maisie had said. I did not make her repeat it for him. His hands began to shake. I was outside. I know. She saw us go outside. I know. They did not believe her. The realization hurt him differently than the fire had. He turned his face toward the wall. I told her she did not have to be my helper. You did, but she still thought she had to find me. That is what they taught her for years. One safety card could not erase it in a month. Owen looked back at me. Do you believe her? Yes. He nodded once. Then I do too. Near 10 that night, I returned to the waiting area. Patricia and Glenn were still there, although neither had been allowed near Maisie. The television was showing the local news. A reporter stood across the street from my house. Fire engines filled the background, and smoke drifted beneath the lights. The report described a kitchen fire and the rescue of a 12-year-old girl and her biological father. Then the reporter said the grandparents had stated that Maisie panicked after reaching safety and ran back inside on her own. Patricia released a breath. Glenn leaned forward. At least they understand, he said. My mother's mouth formed a small, relieved smile. The reporter continued. A woman across the street had recorded the doorway while her husband called 911. The station had matched the clip's timestamp and location to the emergency response, viewed the original file, and provided it to investigators. Maisie's face had been blurred. The footage began. The front door opened, and Maisie stumbled onto the porch. She was already outside. She pointed toward the side of the house. Patricia seized both her shoulders and turned her back toward the doorway. Glenn stepped behind her. Then he pushed. Maisie disappeared across the threshold. Glenn pulled the door almost closed as smoke rolled through the opening. Seconds later, I appeared from the side yard with Owen beside me. Patricia's smile vanished. Glenn stood so quickly, his chair struck the wall. Who recorded that? My mother stared at the television. They cut out what happened before, she said. Glenn pulled the door in to keep smoke off the porch. We thought she would call Owen and come straight back. They are making it look like we sent her in for no reason. I did not answer, and I did not ask them to explain the screen. I left them with the television. I returned to Maisie's room. Owen had been allowed to sit beside her for a few minutes. His arm was bandaged where the heat had caught his skin. Maisie opened her eyes and looked at it. Did you take your medicine? She whispered. Owen looked at me, then back at her. Tomorrow, I will ask Marcus to remember that part with me. Even after the fire, my daughter was still trying to do her old job. The footage changed what the public knew, but it did not change what Maisie's body had learned. She spent 2 nights in the hospital. Owen stayed 1 night longer because his breathing remained rough and the burn on his arm needed treatment. Neither of them suffered the kind of injuries that made headlines sound heroic, but both carried the smoke home in ways no camera could show. We did not return to our house. The fire had destroyed most of the kitchen and damaged the electrical system, while smoke and water had reached nearly every room. The loss of use coverage on my renter's policy paid for most of a furnished apartment while the damage was assessed, and local emergency aid helped with immediate clothing and school supplies. We arrived with 2 pharmacy bags and a cardboard box containing the few school materials the firefighters had recovered. Her STEM project was not among them. The first night, the apartment's smoke alarm flashed a green light above the hallway. Maisie stared at it until I covered the light with a small piece of paper. At breakfast, the smell of oil heating in another apartment drifted through the ventilation system. Her spoon struck the floor. I turned off our stove even though I had not been cooking. We can eat cereal, I said. She nodded without looking at me. When the building tested its fire alarms 3 days later, Maisie crawled beneath the dining table before either of us understood what she was doing. I sat on the floor several feet away and waited until she could hear my voice over the sound. I did not tell her she was safe. Safety was not a sentence I could prove anymore. I told her where we were, which exit was closest, and that I was staying with her until the alarm stopped. Owen recovered in his own apartment with Marcus helping him manage medication and follow-up visits. He called Maisie every afternoon, but even the first video call showed how quickly the old pattern could return. "Did you take the medicine for your arm?" she asked. "What time? Did Marcus see you take it?" Owen answered the first question, then looked toward me through the screen. For years, he had turned to Maisie when he felt uncertain. Now he was beginning to turn to me instead. Neither choice solved the problem. "Owen," I said, "who do you want helping you remember the medicine?" He was quiet for several seconds. "Marcus." "Then ask him." Maisie leaned toward the screen. "I already know the schedule." "I know," Owen said. "But it is not your schedule." Her face closed. After the call, she accused me of making Owen keep secrets from her. "I am not asking him to hide anything," I said. "I am asking him to choose who handles his medical routine." "What if Marcus forgets?" "Then Owen and Marcus deal with it." "What if Dad gets hurt?" "He is allowed to have risks in his life." "He almost died." "So did you." The words came out too sharply. Maisie flinched, and I hated myself for using the fire as a weapon. I sat beside her. "I am sorry. You should not have to prove you are more hurt before someone takes care of you." She stared at her hands. "I knew Dad was outside." "I know," I told them. "I know." They looked at me, like I was wrong. My throat tightened. "You were right. What if I had yelled louder?" "No." "What if I had run to the yard?" "No, Maisie." "What if I had pushed Grandma away?" "You were a child standing between two adults. What happened was their decision." She looked at me. "You let them come back." The sentence hurt because it was true. "Yes." "You thought rules would stop them." "Yes." "Why?" "Because I wanted to believe they could behave differently without becoming different people." She waited for me to defend myself. I did not. "I should have recognized what they were teaching you much earlier," I said. "I should have ended that dinner when they broke the first rule. I am sorry." "Was it your fault?" "The fire was not my choice, and sending you back was not my choice. But giving them another chance was my decision, and I will not pretend it had no consequences." She leaned against me, without answering. Patricia sent 3 messages during the first week. The first said she loved Maisie. The second said the video lacked context. The third said no grandmother should lose her family over one terrible decision made during an emergency. I did not show them to Maisie. I replied once, "You will not contact her. Any necessary communication will go through the appropriate adults while the incident is reviewed." The original video, Maisie's statement, and the accounts from the scene were preserved. With the hospital social worker and the assigned investigator, I documented a temporary safety plan requiring all communication from Patricia and Glenn to pass through me while the incident was reviewed. They had no direct contact with Maisie. I did not explain possible charges to her, or promise that a legal outcome would heal anything. The most important boundary had already been made. They no longer had access to her fear. Owen also struggled after the fire. People at the nursery called him brave. A local reporter asked whether he wanted to describe the rescue. He declined. "I do not want to prove I can go in fires," he told me. "People will think I can do everything now." "You do not have to prove that. I still need help." "I know. Saving Maisie does not make the bus signs easier." "No." He looked relieved that I had not turned his rescue into a cure. The first Sunday, after both of them were home, we met in the furnished apartment. Marcus came with Owen because the bus route had changed again. He stayed long enough to confirm the return trip, then sat in the living room with a book while Owen and Maisie assembled a new model car from materials donated by her science teacher. Maisie checked the clock twice. The third time, Owen noticed. "My medicine is at 7. "I know. Marcus has an alarm. What if his phone is silent?" Owen picked up his own phone and called across the room. "Marcus, I need you to help me remember the medicine." Marcus raised the phone in acknowledgement. Owen turned back to Maisie. "Your job is getting better. I picked an adult to help me. Maisie looked at the unfinished car. Can I still remind you about normal things? If you want to, and if I want you to. That sounds complicated. Owen nodded. Being people is complicated. She laughed despite herself. Over the following weeks, our Sundays changed. Sometimes Owen came with Marcus. Sometimes he traveled alone on a route they had practiced. Maisie helped him choose music or identify seedlings, but she did not check his pockets. When she forgot and asked about his medication, Owen answered once, then redirected her to her own work. The old system did not disappear all at once. It lost power each time. One of us chose differently. Her return to school happened in steps. For 2 weeks, she attended shortened days. A trauma counselor and the school counselor arranged advance notice before alarm drills, a seat near an exit, and a quiet room she could choose without explaining herself. Before rejoining science club, she practiced describing one measurement in an empty classroom, with only her teacher and me present. Maisie returned to science club in April. Her teacher helped her reconstruct the data she had lost in the fire. She built a heavier model and repeated the trials with plastic, felt, and sandpaper. At the beginning of June, she was offered a place in the district STEM presentation. She pretended not to care when she told me. Then she spent an hour selecting the exact ruler she wanted to bring. The presentation was held in a community college lecture hall. Owen came with Marcus and sat 2 rows behind me. Maisie stood beside her display, explaining how surface texture affected stopping distance. Halfway through her explanation, someone dropped a metal display stand near the rear doors. The crash echoed through the hall. Owen covered one ear. His breathing changed, and his eyes moved toward the exit. Maisha saw him. Her voice stopped. For a moment, she was 12 years old and 7 years old at the same time. She looked ready to abandon the table, the judges, and every measurement she had rebuilt. I kept my hands in my lap. I did not signal for her to continue. I did not decide for her. Owen raised 2 fingers toward Marcus, the signal they had chosen. Marcus stood beside him. Together, they moved toward the exit. Owen did not look back for Maisie. She watched the door close behind them. Then she looked down at her model car. The roughest surface produced the shortest stopping distance, she continued. But changing the weight also changed how much distance the car needed. Her voice shook on the first sentence. It steadied on the second. She finished the presentation and answered the judges' questions. There was no award ceremony waiting for her, only a teacher thanking her, and another student asking how she had secured the axle. When her part was over, we found Owen and Marcus in the hallway. Owen was sitting on a bench, breathing normally again. Maisie stopped in front of him. You left. I needed outside. I saw. Marcus helped. She nodded. Owen looked toward the lecture hall, where people were still gathered around her display. I asked a grown-up for help. Maisie followed his gaze. I know. For the first time, she did not need to check.